The Spanish sought to integrate all the territories that they explored into the Spanish Empire and convert all the inhabitants into settlers, Christians, and vassals of the king, just like all the Spanish were. The expansion through North America, in fact, was the least violent. Let's remember that King Philip II had already prohibited violent conquests, and that this was a declaration of intent for what they were trying to obtain. That way, the friars evangelized with least intervention possible from the soldiers. However, this left the friars defenseless on many occasions. Often, the missionaries are accused of forcing conversions. The handbook Itinerario para Párrocos de Indios, which occupied a place second only to the Bible, stated that enforced baptisms shall be considered null and void. Friars took on a parental role for mission natives. These missions have been criticized because the friars would issue truancy searches by soldiers, and bad behavior of neophytes was corrected with corporal punishment. But let's remember that not up until very long ago, corporal punishment was inherent in any educative system for every country. Truancy laws still exist to hold people accountable for various obligations within our own society. Within the walls of the missions, many indigenous people were protected from attacks that were carried out by other indigenous tribes. Let's not forget that Rousseau's Eurocentric theory of the noble savage is false, and there never existed a harmonious world among the natives. Tribes would war constantly amongst each other, causing a multitude of deaths, even in California. Additionally, by 1778, the first Native American mayors and councilors were freely elected by their mission peers to serve their local interests. What other European society offered such political liberties at this time? But natives were forced to work. Well, everyone worked in Spanish society. Even Spaniards in the peninsula worked. It was a generative empire regardless of your race. In fact, there existed ordinances in the Americas requiring Spaniards who were able-bodied vagrants to work in mines. The average workday was between 5 and 7 hours, with many holidays and all Sundays off. A standard calendar throughout the Spanish society. The Spanish missions, along with evangelizing, taught the indigenous to read and write, along with various trades and occupations, like the construction of adobe houses, aqueducts, irrigation canals, animal husbandry, and methods of European craftsmanship. It should be kept in mind that most of these people were nomadic and had to learn everything from the ground up. They were unfamiliar with what can be seen as a sedentary lifestyle. Despite the disease toll, these settler societies remained attractive to many nomadic natives, given the notable production of resources. This increased population of Christianized indigenous people would later be eliminated by U.S. Protestant citizens during the gold rush. That a war of extermination will continue to be waged between the races until the Indian race becomes extinct. Peter Burnett, January 6, 1851, first governor of California. Within the last 4 months, more Indians have been killed by our people than during the century of Spanish and Mexican domination. Mexico protected the Indian. We are unwilling to attempt to dignify by the term war as slaughter of beings who at least possess human form, and who make no resistance. The Majority Report of the Joint Special Committee, 1860. If the Indians were to kill me, they should be forgiven. St. Junipero Serra, December 15, 1775. It's easy to conflate Anglo-Protestant intolerance toward Native Americans with Spanish empirical steps of acculturation. We can see these European societies were widely different in their treatment of Native Americans through the miscegenation of offspring, culture, and legal protective measures by the Spanish crown itself. The segregation, expulsion, and extermination by the United States California government, its soldiers, and its vigilantes are historical evidence that native life regressed when California was incorporated into the United States. Many universities, institutions, and professors in California have caved into these distortions thanks to the Spanish Black legend. Ignorantly or with bad faith, Spanish and Catholic history has been demonized by people of academic prestige in the United States. It's not an accident. Our teachers' education is product of a culture war between Hispano-Catholics and Anglo-Protestants that dates to the Reformation, where the printing press was utilized to broadcast hateful and false propaganda. If you can't beat them, smear them. They accuse others of what they are guilty of doing. It's very ironic that they cut off Freddy Junipero Serra's head, and not the heads of the military men who are still honored for the killings from Wounded Knee. For example, they received medals from Congress for perpetuated killings of defenseless, unarmed Indian populations, and no one has asked that these medals be revoked. However, they have cut off Junipero's head, and he never killed anyone in his entire life. What is happening in California? It's a memory of a genocide, and there was one. This is a concrete case. It's true, there was one. The indigenous population in California disappeared in less than 50 years in the 19th century. Why did the indigenous population in California really disappear? They were extinguished in 50 years during the gold rush, after the incorporation. I repeat, after California's incorporation to the United States. Those who partook in this extermination were those like Fremont. He has streets, he has plazas, he even has a city named after him. And I'm sure no one is going to ask that his name gets removed from the street, from the plaza, from the institutions, or from the city. Directly responsible of something that didn't happen that long ago.